Kevin from HIMediaTV here, and I got a quick question for you. Have you been initially wrong about a game? So before we get into that, oh holy runtime. Okay, so I recognize that this is a little bit uncouth. This is not what we normally do with a quick question, but this is a cold watch, by the way. I want to be very clear when I say that when it comes to the subject of your video, Sean, are young conservatives misinformed? Um, as you know, I'm a political nerd and I know a lot about this, and I'm going to go into this shit, and I will not. I need to be able to react in real time, or I'll have a stroke. So yes, the runtime of this video has gone all the way past 20 miles down the road, and my actual quick question will be at the end. But I want to be deliberate with this, so let's watch this, shall we? I'll also say I'm going to watch like his response to my question first, and then when we get to the nonsense, we'll not the nonsense, the unfortunates. We'll get there. I do want to say briefly for the record on an unrelated note, really like the new hair, Sean. Looks dapper, looks good as shit. I just want to say for the record, your skin does look pretty damn good. But then again, the camera does help. I get that. All right, let's get into the unfortunate.
Assertive or misinformed. My opinion on that is yeah.
Just to answer the question, that's an aspect of it. I'm not saying they're not misinformed per se, but it's when it comes to conservatives, say voting against their own best interests, right? Voting for politicians that empower the bosses, their bosses, treat them worse, with less workplace protections, less pay, less health care, less everything. The problem is that like we can opine widely about things like lack of education, lack of X, Y, or Z when it's just when we can wonder like why would they vote against their own best interest when we are still operating at it from our own bias? You know, why are Oklahoma farmers? You know, why did they vote for Donald Trump when half their fucking labor force are undocumented immigrants? And it is because of the cognitive dissonance that comes with being a conservative. You are like it is and I'm gonna say this and people might not want to hear it, and I'm going to say this and and like certain people's cognitive dissonance are gonna hear it, but this is the descriptor, whether they are very few people are actively voting for it, but there are feelings that they have associated with what I'm about to say that they may not know it intrinsically, but if you don't call it out, but you detail what they want, it is what it is. Most conservatives vote for what, especially the non-rich ones, vote for white supremacy. The conservatives have a larger fear node in their brain than liberals and leftists do. This is a provable fact. They have analyzed conservatives' brains. People who vote like Republican and vote conservative and have conservative ideals, they have a much larger part of the brain that the part of the brain that controls fear is much larger compared to the other part. And they are afraid of change. They're afraid of new things, and they ultimately vote like even if rationally voting to you know not have Medicare for all, voting to deport all of the immigrants, voting to not have public transportation does ostensibly hurt these motherfuckers. what hurts them more is the fears they have of people that don't look like them and don't act like them. There's a reason why, you know, there's a reason why, like, that is more than anything else the reason why they vote against their best interest, because what Donald Trump and other conservatives like him offer, like the meanness, the viciousness, the unkindness of, you know, being mean and a bully to others. They need that. They want that. That's the point.
Yes, yes. Because it seems like the young people are like these very young conservatives are very passionate. I just saw a video called 1v20 20 Trump supporters.
Oh my god, poor fucking Sam Cedar, bro. I felt so, because here's the thing. You can't fight against. I saw clips from that. Sam Cedar, like, there was nothing he could have done. Like he said government agencies don't pay taxes, they are funded by the government, and then some dipshit who looked like he should be fucking making me a latte at Starbucks had the nerve to say that's not true. Here's the thing. Also, I want to know.
Versus
I'm gonna
one
let him finish and then
progressive
I'll say it.
person. I think young conservatives are very misinformed.
So I want to be very clear about that video too. I want to just point something out. Sam Cedar versus 20 cons. Blah 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 blah. I want to be very clear here. Poor fucking Sam Cedar with doing with this shit. So let's actually like take a look at these people. So a big thing you have to here's the thing you got to understand. Fascists don't get pussy. It is a bitch. They don't get bitches. It is a bitchless ideology. And the guys that you see going on here, the way that they're dressing, they are dressing. If you notice, like conservatives, especially younger leaning conservatives, will dress not as what is currently cool. They will dress as what was cool like 5 to 10 years ago, because because they don't want to appear like how they are with their ideology, because ultimately, and this is especially true when it comes to young men, and we'll talk more about this when later in this video as I'm reacting to it. Conservative men, there's a reason why people who have like not politically affiliated, like, or moderate in their Tinder bios or their Hinge bios are just default assumed to be conservatives, because these men know that being conservative is not gonna, like, women aren't going to want to date them. And there are conservative women out there. Granted, there aren't a fucking lot of them, but they exist. So the question you have to ask is, why don't they go for them? Why is just Pearly Thing single? It's because conservative men don't want to be with. It is conservative. There's something about conservatism, and this is, fascism in general, that yearn that they don't want what they espouse. They don't want what they espouse. What they want is to domineer. They want to take a thing and make it follow into what they want. But then they get bored with it and move on to the next. This is why conservatives who get tired of living in liberal shithole California will move to, say, I'm gonna move to Texas and then move to fucking Austin. Or say, I'm gonna move to Georgia and move to Atlanta, the blackest place on the planet. It's they hate, they don't, they love what comes with liberalism and leftism and the things that comes in society, the interesting restaurants they like the interesting restaurants, the interesting locales, the public parks, public transportation, you know women that already know how to give head, women that are interesting and entertaining, women that know how to put on makeup so they don't look like Laura, so they don't look like 80s porn stars. Conservatives don't want conservative lifestyle, or they want to turn, they want the high of turning liberal and left wing things into conservative things. It is and that is a big reason why I think that despite conservatism having a little bit of like being more a little more popular among Gen Z men and younger and like young men, I think it's ultimately not going to be a thing that lasts long term unless you live in a bubble, which a lot of them do. So we'll have to see.
form. Because I don't think it's a huge amount of conservative or young conservatives that
There's not. There's not a
wants
lot of them at
to
all.
like do this and that and that. Like they just really, I don't see them as very wants other people just to suffer.
They do. They do. I just saw a story today about is an Israeli high school student who hit the fucking Elon salute, the freaking Sig Heil, outside in front of the gates to Auschwitz. I'm just saying.
And like watching that video I was talking about earlier, I can really see what they're coming from. They're coming from their religions and their, from their good areas and everything. Good, I mean, they coming from their community, and like,
Then here's the thing, right? Then why don't conservatives ever pitch to me why I should follow their shit? Here's the thing. I don't believe in your God. I don't even particularly like the idea of like shacking up with a woman at fucking 19. We're both 19 years old and being with that person for the rest of my life. I don't. I like hell of a boss. Like I'm not like the problem with conservatives is that they do not like I as a liberal can sell you have to like I what my default modus operandi is I as a lefty sell you on my ideology. I will tell you what I believe, why I believe it, and why it will help you. They never tell me why it will help. They never tell me why it helps me, not in any meaningful sense. Like they say, oh, you should, the government's bad. Why is the government bad? Because the government's corrupt. Why is the government corrupt? Is this because politicians are evil? Why are politicians evil? And just do that Socratic method, and then you end up getting to what you don't get is a this is it, you don't get a this is because of statement. You get an I feel statement. You have 40 plus year you have this the conservative movement has been a 60 like a 40 to 60 year project to get us to where we are right now. The problem is that the people that are in charge are not as smart as the people that got this ball rolling in the first place. We're fundamentally living in a world where right wing fascists are ruling the government and whatever. Let's
they're
continue.
really just defending their beliefs. I can.
They're not defending their belief. Here's the thing. It's part of the alt-right playbook to never play defense. Like they don't play conservatives do not play defense. When they play defense, they lose always because their ideas are trash. They're because whenever a conservative goes on the defense, they lose immediately because their ideas are indefensible. Their economic ideas are indefensible because, you know, their voter base doesn't like it. They're like because it doesn't help like the vast majority of their voter base who's poor fucking white people. Their social politics are unpopular because are indefensible because it's just abject fucking racism. Like I don't know what to tell to tell folks like there's a reason why conservatives are always on the offense and why I'm so fucking mad about how feckless and ineffectual the Democratic Party has been, especially since Trump got elected. Fucking Hakeem Jeffries going and sucking the balls of Silicon Valley and saying and censoring like Al Green, the only Democrat to actually meaningfully set up, like to only Democrat to meaningfully stand up to, and like speak against Trump during that bullshit speech. They should have been the sergeant at arms and the security should have been carrying Democrats out by their hands and knees and feet as they were screaming. Like this should have been a shit show, but they're not because yeah, all they did is like all the Democrats put on their pink fucking pantsuits and little signs and took their selfies and shit. When what we should be doing is fucking. I want to see my representatives catching charges. I want to see them as a mass of my Democratic representatives massing to like barrel through the dipshit, security hired by Elon and try and get into the government buildings that they've blocked off for some fucking reason. Like this is what we need. We need firebrands, and the Democratic Party at present is dog shit. Like because they're so like here's the thing, they are so addicted to money and desperate for in their donors that they do not know what to do now that the donor class has abandoned them wholesale for the Republican Party. Period. If because the Democratic Party is run by Clintonites. The Democratic Party is run by a feckless, ineffective group of Democrats whose political ideology is for every urban liberal, urban progressive we lose, we'll gain two, rural, like moderate Republicans. Which that was a perfectly effective strategy back in 1990. Over 30 fucking years ago, but it's not today. The fact of the matter is that 70% of the entire United States population lives either in or directly adjacent to an urbanized area. Period. The fact of the matter is that 23 cities hold 50%, make 50% of our country's GDP. The fact of the matter is that when you break it down to brass fucking tacks, if the Democrats have within their sphere of their big tent party the possibility to win not to just win the coming midterm, but every election for the next 20, 30 years is by focusing on things like universal health care, UBI, more social housing, public infrastructure spending, reduction in military spending, increases social security spending, just increases taxes on the wealthy, putting like capital gains taxes on stock traders, and hell, this is one of my favorite. Oh, like every like taxes on loans, like immediate taxes all paid, like whenever you as a rich person take out $1 billion fucking dollars from take out like $1 billion loan or some shit from a bank using your like Amazon or Tesla stock as collateral, looking at you, Bezos and Elon, 50% of that has to go to the federal government as a tax. I'm just saying, like, fundamentally at the end of the day, I do not care. Like the fact of the matter is that the Democratic Party, as it exists in today's day and age, is so it's almost funny that the Republican Party is a more effective political party despite their ideology being wildly unpopular. The way that the Republican Party primary stick is structured is more democratic than the Democratic Party, and here's the key difference: Republicans are afraid of their voter base. There's a reason why they're not hosting any more town halls after all of these fucking town halls were Republican, old, very old, very white, very Republican coded people are yelling at them saying, "What the fuck are you doing?" And they're scared of their constituents. Democrats have contempt for their constituents. We are a inconvenience. The Democrats' real constituents are the donors, and the voter base is an inconvenient obstacle to power for them. If they could get rid of us in wholesale, they would. And this isn't all Democrats. You have your squads, you have your Al Greens, you have your um Marshall Snow, like the representative for Orlando, I believe. Maxwell Frost is his name. Like Maxwell Frost lost. Plays Yu-Gi-Oh, by the way. Plays Rank 10 Trains. Love that for him. Yeah, we're I listen, I don't put like are there absolute did people definitely not show up as much for the 2024 election? Yes. Is it there very credible real evidence of Republican voter suppression keeping 3 million blue voters off the voter roll? Absolutely. And this is in critical purple counties that would have won commonly the election, by the way. Um, but I think ultimately, at the end of the day, the big thing that really did lead to Donald Trump winning was the ineffectualness of the Democratic Party. And I think that's just the unfortunate reality of it.
Sort of get behind defending your belief to a point, but
But you cannot, like, these aren't, like, these, I understand an opinion's like an asshole. Everybody has one. But when your beliefs require are you being intolerant towards other people? So much for the tolerant left. I don't tolerate intolerance, and you're being intolerant. So I don't tolerate you, your face, your beliefs, your political prescriptions, or your general existence on this earth. Get the fuck out of my face. That's my general outlook for it. Listen, if you want to talk to me about economic policy and stuff like that, we can have a rational debate. But I'm not going to debate you on whether or not trans people exist or whether or not black people have a right to exist in public and shit. Fuck you. I don't give a damn.
I noticed that he was given a statement and they wasn't really, answering that. So he had a.
I want to also be very clear. Like, Jubilee is hot garbage and trash. Jubilee's it's terrible. We hate them, and they need their YouTube channel needs to get deleted from the internet.
Statement saying
they had Michael Knowles on to debate people. A literal Christian Christo-fascist, an evil motherfucker, man.
Rich people, religious people in high points places, going to benefit in this Trump administration. And
I wish all those gay people and shit that were surrounding Michael Knowles and Ben Shapiro just beat him to death. Just beat him to death. Like, that's whatever.
People had a real problem about him talking about religions getting, having great benefits in the Trump administration. And they was so focused on that, but they didn't even focus on the statement. And they agreed with the statement.
Yeah, it's because they just want to fight, and conservatives have the object permanence in political dialogue of a fucking goldfish.
He didn't agree the way he said, because he obviously not agreement with it. I looked at that video at least 2 times and noticing that they did not stay on the topic at hand. It says a lot. It says they are so go home to defending their views. They don't really care that it's, that's not the point anyone is making at the point.
It's because they're not. It's because you have to be willing to ignore reality at least a little bit to have any amount of conservatism in your body. Like, to be an actual conservative, you have. Like, I'm not saying conservatives are stupid, but I will say that you have to, let's just say, leave like some suspension, like, let's just, like, you have to have some suspension of disbelief to be a conservative, and you have to exist that way at all times to be able to believe the things you do. They're like, oh, like, if you tax cuts for the wealthy, and cutting government spending is going to, in government programs, is going to lead to economic prosperity. No, the fuck it doesn't. Since when has that ever been the case? That's never been the case. Never. Not in the history. You know what? You want to know that what caused great economic prosperity in our country? The New Deal. New Deal programs, the ones that all of the boomers, all the people that are alive right now who are who are in Congress trying to get rid of all the, like, the legacy of that, the one that they all the all the programs that they benefited from. Yeah, like high taxes on the wealthy and large social safety nets, that leads to economic prosperity. Who would have thunk it? I don't know. Maybe it's because history, you know, we have examples in history, but people don't want to fucking listen.
They don't really see that they're not making attacking the statement. They go to talk pieces and say, see, this is why I view, this is why you.
Because they are cheap. They are not Listen, if people who are identify as conservatives were capable of critical thinking on a day-to-day fundamental degree, they wouldn't be conservative. They just eat talking points fed to them from Tim Pool, Fox News, or wherever they get their conservative ideological slop, and then just continue just regurgitating them without ever actually thinking about the mechanics of what the fuck they believe.
You should do the same thing I'm doing. This is why your views are stupid. This is why it's like that. They was there to prove a point, to win the argument, to be right, not to learn. And a lot of.
And here's the thing, they weren't even right. Sam Cedar in that entire conversation was right every single fucking time. The problem is that they're just saying, no, you're wrong. That's not true. I'm like, it is true. You just don't fucking read. Like, you were on the short bus. Like, you were the child that got left behind. Like, they said no child left behind. You were the child that got left behind. I'm sorry.
A lot of those kids, well, I say kids, I mean a lot of those young adults should definitely, open up a book, or at least,
get a lobotomy, maybe.
Look at data, or, like, I don't know, go.
I'm sorry, Sean. We're so far past the point where we're just saying, oh, go learn. They don't want to learn. This feels good to them. They don't want to learn it. Like, reality's scary, so they had to make up this entire fictional universe where rich people are their best allies, the government is the devil, and brown people are coming to kill them in the middle of the night. I'm sorry. Like, there's no amount of data you can put forth to these people. There is a guaranteed 30% of the population that literally that will literally lose their job because of Trump's budget cuts and will still dick ride him until the morning comes. So many people are too far gone. And the types of people who are young conservatives who would go on a fucking Jubilee video against Sam Cedar in the first place, these are the too far gone motherfuckers. You can try and get, like, you might have some family members that you can probably pull away from, that you can peel away from the bullshit. You can have some do X, Y, or Z, but fundamentally at the end of the day, we are constantly in a battle against 30% of the population that is at worst evil, at best retarded. That is the unfortunate reality of what we're dealing with. They do not want to learn. They do not want to look at the data. They're never going to look at the data. And despite the old adage of conservatives don't care about anything until it affects them directly, i.e., being against stem cell research, Nancy Reagan being against stem cell research until Ronnie got Alzheimer's and shit like that. we're it is unfortunate, but we're living in a reality where these people just they will literally have their Republican leaders piss in their face and they'll say thank you. And not even in a kink way, just like you're walking down the street, you just late sit down, like you kneel down to tie your shoe, and then Donald Trump whips his like micro penis out and pisses on your in your mouth, and you say thank you, daddy. Like it wasn't even a kink thing. You weren't even expecting it. Like that's just what happens. That's what these motherfuckers are doing.
Oh, the narrow. What is that? The app? Is it narrow? Is it narrow news? I think it's narrow. I think it's narrow news. I don't know. But yeah, like it's like they were so informed. It was a black conservative in there that thought minorities' rights was protected in the Constitution.
Again, these people don't like reading. I've met Yu-Gi-Oh players that are more literate than these motherfuckers, and that's saying something because all Yu-Gi-Oh players are borderline illiterate.
It's not. Like I don't know.
Like, you're a citizen. You're a citizen if you're born in the United States, but all they got to do is make you a felon and then you're a slave again. 14th Amendment, baby.
How that guy lived that long in his life did not know that, but that's
It's because they don't take in new information. They do not want new information. They do not care. They do not care about new information. They don't want to learn. Like that is the thing about conservatives. They look back to an idealized past that's never existed and they do not care. Like if anything challenges their worldview, like they're afraid of new information. They villainize college, they villainize education, they villainize like learning, they villainize all of these things because education is like conservatism is allergic to education. When you educate when somebody is educated and somebody, the two kryptonites for conservatism are education and travel. When you travel more than 10 miles out of your home consistently, then visit other parts of the country or other even parts of the world if you're lucky enough to do that. And you learn new things and you come from a well-read, well-educated background and you learn a bunch of new things even as you go and you're open to learning those things. You're not that conservatism is not able to keep its fucking jaws on you because you're willing to learn new things. Now, I have met some people in my life who were genuinely ideal. They were well traveled, they were well educated, but they wanted the world to be a certain way because they wanted it to be that way, and they it was like evil. Like I've met very few evil like ideological principle conservatives in my life, and these are some evil motherfuckers. Like they've said I've heard some there's this one guy who ran a shop near where I used to live who literally talked about some of the most heinous shit on the fucking planet. Evil, just evil shit. And so it's just it's baffling to me, you know, like there's a difference between like the person who's conservative because like that's all they've ever known and the person who's conservative because he chooses to be despite having everything to make him the contrary. It's wild.
it's 101 to being black. You know, your rights can be taken away from you as simple as putting the wrong person in the house. Like you, it blew my mind. Like in the part, the people were making points, and their points just wasn't like making any points. And like to get to the point, I don't want to be here for long, but I learned that
You don't want to be here for long. We're looking at a 40-minute runtime probably for this damn video.
young conservative are not based on facts. It's based on defense,
Feelings.
defending.
No, it's based on feelings. Like you have to remember, like the line of every conservative accusation is projection. They said for years, facts don't care about your feelings. And the fact of the matter is that the facts of the world of reality do not line up with conservative ideology. There's a reason they don't say that anymore. It's because, and there's a reason Ben Shapiro doesn't say that anymore. It's because fundamentally, at the end of the day, facts don't line up. The facts of reality do not line up with conservative worldviews, and they never have. In the age of the internet, in the age of like things of that nature, and the continued leftward tread of the millennials and Gen Zers, even with like Gen Z men being fucking Hitlerite, it's not real.
Their belief. No matter if they right or wrong, no matter if they contradict themselves, it's all about defending their own belief.
It's not. Here's the thing. Or to put it another way, it is about protecting their safe space. It is about protecting the bubble that they have constructed around their brain to make sense of the world in such a way that they don't have to see how fucked everything is, how fucked everything has gotten over the last 40, 50 years because of their ideology, and the consequences we're living therein, of which.
And it's kind of crazy. And I kind of understand at a point, like, yeah, you don't want nobody saying you wrong. Like, nobody want to deal with that. And I kind of get that. Nobody want to be wrong. But, like, when you start contradicting yourself, when you start leaving yourself not open to learn more and not open up the possibility that you might be wrong. You want the truth, but you just want your truth, but you don't want the actual truth. And that's only going to hurt yourself, your intelligence, and everybody around that truth. It blows my mind that they don't really, think about that, but like, to cut that short, I believe young conservatives are very misinformed.
And I believe young conservatives are in a cult. Or retarded. Both.
And it bothers me a lot that
I hate conservatives so much, dude. Our lives are so fucking shitty because of conservative economic and social policy. It's terrible.
it's going to be harder for them to be informed because they're so stuck in their
They don't.
ways.
They don't want to be informed. They want to live in their bubble and pretend that the world works in a way that it doesn't fucking work.
I just wish they had the facts. I wish they had the nuance because if it was real, they know both parties kind of suck, which is my opinion. But, it is what it is. And I'm just here talking in front of this camera. So, what do y'all think? Are young conservatives misinformed? I say yes. What do y'all say?
I hate it here. All right, we're just gonna go to my question. I hate it here, bro. So, have you, Sean, ever been initially wrong about a game? So what I mean is that it can either be from the negative to the positive or the positive to the negative, meaning you thought a game was good and then you realized it was bad, or you realized thought a game was bad and then you realized it was good. So that actually happened at time of recording pretty recently to me. One of the games that I, kind of panned when it first came out was Diablo 4. It was clunky. It didn't the story was cool and engaging, but like the cognitive dissonance between the intensity of the story and the arcadiness of the combat was kind of jarring. Also the combat, wasn't, particularly enthralling at the time. And I just found that the instability of the game, the lack of draw I had towards it. I think I was also having a little bit. I think I was a little also frustrated with Blizzard at the time. I just did not enjoy it, and I kind of gave it a kind of a meh pandering. I'm still working my way through Vessel of Hatred, the DLC, as at time of recording, and I'll probably end up having a review up for that at some point. But I realized I was wrong. Is Diablo 4 a 10 out of 10 best game ever? Absolutely the fuck not. Very few games are. In fact, I would say a game like Path of Exiles, if it wasn't for how daunting, all of the mechanics in terms of leveling and buildcraft are, I would say it would probably be a better game, especially from an arcadiness standpoint. But I will say that, like, I put Diablo probably at a 5 or 6 out of 10. I'd probably put it at a 7 or 8. I'm having fun. Is that not just because they give you a boost when you come back to level 50 with a bunch of decent legendary gear, and then you can just put the game onto expert and just ride it out until you get to end game with some like moderate challenge and like all of your kit ready to go and it's fun. Yeah, sure, but I I was wrong completely. I think like it sucks that there are games that are only really good once you get to the end game, and I feel like that is another conversation within itself. Definitely, probably going to be another quick question. Um, but yeah, I was wrong about it. So again, Sean, I have a quick question for you. What is a game? Have you ever been wrong about a game? I think that was the question. I don't know. I'm taking a leaf out of Sean's book and like recording stuff in advance. Loggers.